taking a minute for YouTube. Let's make sure we get on YouTube. If you are seeing us, give us a hello. And it's getting long. Okay, there we go. Now I think we're good. All right, let me get chat up. Okay. And let's get us up. Hello! Happy Wine Wednesday. I hope you're having a fabulous week and your seahorses are great. As I mentioned in the comments, Macna is this weekend, so I will do a little talking about that. But instead of starting with that, I'm going to jump right into the conversation that we were having as we got started. Before I do, though, I wanted to let you know that if they start freezing today, apologies. We are still using Zoom, and apparently we're having a little chat problem where the chat's not showing up in the video. But I ordered some fancy schmancy equipment, so coming in a week, maybe two, we should be really a lot better with the stream because I'm going to start using literally two computers to do it. So Zoom won't be on, it's hard to explain, but I think the trouble I'm having is because I'm doing everything on one computer. So just wanted to mention that, and if they do start freezing, just let me know and I'll jump in and out like I've done before. But here's to no technical difficulties this week. Cheers. Let's hope we don't. Anyhow, yes, thank you. Cheers. And so yeah, before I get into jabbering about Macna stuff, which I have a lot of announcements and a lot of cool things coming, but you got to stay tuned for that one because first, before we started, I told a story. If you guys follow me on any of my pages, I recently got I actually in all have gotten like 7 new seahorses recently, 8, but anyways, I've been kind of posting a lot about the really super yellow ones and super orange ones that I got from Ocean Rider. And I wanted to do a little kind of not test because I don't have, the scientific control set up, but I just wanted to see, which would do better in which tank. So I put 2 of them. I put the orange ones in the 65 gallon and I put the yellow ones in the all-in-one. So now there's 3 seahorses, Aphrodite, and the 2 yellow ones in the all-in-one, sorry, and then there's the 2 larger older males and then the 2 orange ones in the 65 gallon. So that's where we're at. Everything's gone great. These seahorses have eaten. The yellow ones started getting like ridiculous fat and huge all of a sudden, the second I got them. They're doing fantastic. The orange ones, the male turned pink instead of orange, which is fine by me. I don't care. The female is still bright orange. They have done terrific until literally today. And I'm not freaking out. Never ever freak out when there's, you see something. You just take things slowly. And Ray's going to give me some advice after we talk skimmer. But my thoughts are, actually, I should tell you what happened. They wouldn't eat. Okay, they've been eating fine for a week. Great. I even tried live artemia, and they wouldn't eat the live artemia. So they're stressed. Okay, and I'm trying to figure out why. And the 2 bigger males are not. So that's weird too. But they're very stressed, and I'm thinking that it's because the 2 things I've changed recently is I replumbed my UV sterilizer. I had watched a video and realized that I had it plumbed wrong because I had the pump going to the UV, but it teed off, and part of the water was pushed to the UV, and part was pushed up to the tank, just straight up to the tank. The teed off part went through the UV and then back to the sump. And I watched a video and realized that's not the way to do it because you're just over sterilizing, you're double sterilizing, and it's kind of pointless and doesn't make sense. So I redid all the plumbing and got it all prettified with new, I can't think of the word, but the hose that's stronger, like with the crisscross on. I'm sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. But anyways, so the one thing I did was replumb the sterilizer so it goes directly from the pump, sterilizer, tank, right? And so that could affect things, I'm sure, because I noticed when I also put a new light into the UV sterilizer, and I know that flow rates matter, so I'm looking into that. If you got thoughts or advice, feel free. But I do have an adjustable DC pump, so I can adjust it. But the one thing that I noticed about the UV sterilizers, I'm sorry guys, I'm rambling. The one thing I noticed about the UV sterilizer is that when I was replacing the bulb, you could see that the casing had gunk in it. Okay, and I can't imagine how you could clean that out. So I'm thinking maybe, first of all, when I replumbed it and it's going through better, and I got the new light and it's probably killing the gunk, maybe it pushed a bunch of gunk into the tank. So step one, when we get done with Wine Wednesdays, I'm going to do a massive water change, right? The other thing that changed in the tank that I think might be causing problem is I have a mini G skimmer. I think I already posted on Instagram. I'll be posting on Facebook asking these questions. But it worked fantastic for me for years in the sump, same tank, same sump. But then, as you all know, I kind of neglected the tank for a few years, and I wasn't even running the skimmer, right? And or I just wasn't caring for it. Anyhow, when I got it out and cleaned it, when I cleaned everything up to add these new seahorses to the tank again, I cleaned it really well, like soaked in vinegar, all that good stuff. And when I put it back together, I think the O-ring is placed wrong or something. And I am waiting on a new the mini G skimmer is the type that has the pump or the pump is underneath. It's this big tube, big thing at the top, and then it has a side lever that you can adjust. And it also usually has Poisonons. I'll look at your comment in just a second. But it also has one of those sponge overtake filter thingies. I'm so great with words. Anyway, so that thing was destroyed. It was barely like even setting on there because of so much use. So I ordered a new one. So it currently doesn't have the sponge, which might be affecting things. And I really think that the O-ring is in wrong because I will have that skimmer tuned to perfection. It'll be great all day. I go to bed. I wake up in the morning and the whole sump is bubbles. And the tank looks sudsy because it's pushing all the pump's pushing these bubbles into the tank from the skimmer. So all that gunk that I'm trying to remove is getting pushed right back into the tank. So lots of problems that they could be. And this is the sucky part about when something goes wrong, you've got to look at everything and try to figure out what's wrong. So Ray's going to give me advice at the end. But about the skimmer, Holly said she has the same trouble adjusting, right? Didn't you?
Yeah, I've trouble adjusting it because I'm no expert on skimmers, and the way mine works is it has a little like pill bottle looking thing with a screw in the top where you control the air intake,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's got another pill bottle looking thing that you turn to adjust how high the water is
Mm-hmm.
in the skimmer to adjust the bubbles. And when it was new, both of them are the same brand. Both of them, when they were new, I put them in and leave the screw completely open, other than just sitting there, right, to let the air in. Ran great, perfectly. Now I've had them for a while, and I have the hardest time sometimes tuning it to where the bubbles are rising high enough to overflow into the cup.
Right.
And then sometimes, like after I do my water change, it'll be too low, and then all of a sudden it overflows later in the day.
So
I
I
don't know how to control that. So I'm looking for how to control it.
Cheryl's about to give us advice, but I wanted to say, hey, Kevin, we're actually going to be talking Macna right after we talk skimmers. So I know you have meetings, but feel free to jump in when we get to the Macna part if you'd like. Guys, we got a lot to announce about Macna. Hey, Chimp. Hey, Salty. I know you guys are great with skimmers and UVs. And I saw Poison's Kitchen said, highly recommend no UV sterilizers. Hey, maybe I should take that offline. I mean, to be really honest with you, I turned it off because I'm trying to establish what might be the problem. You know what I'm saying? So if I turn the UV off, obviously I'd have to do more plumbing and just get it out of the way completely. But if for in the meantime, if they stop stressing tonight or tomorrow after I've unhooked it, that would be a big clue for me. But I also have the skimmer unhooked, which is, in my opinion, really dangerous in a seahorse tank. But I can't get it set right. So Cheryl, what was your advice?
Okay, well, a couple things. One, I finally quit using UV sterilizers because they're very expensive. To get something that really is good, they're very expensive. And if you maintain your tank carefully, I question whether you really need a UV, depending on the system you have. And I have not seen, since I decided to discontinue my UVs, I've not seen any changes in any of my tanks.
Gotcha.
So I finally decided I'd had enough. I've used these for years, and I've never really found them to be necessary.
Well, and for everybody in the audience too, I want your thoughts too. I see your notifications have been off, Chimp. No problem. We just love when you come. But for anybody in the audience or in the Zoom, the point of the UV is to, like I wasn't using it for disease or anything. I was using it for algae reasons because this tank was a god awful mess. If I showed you before and after pictures, you'd be like, that had to take you a month to clean up. It didn't. It only took a day, but it was a full day. Anyways, but the UV is killing little spores, little whatever, which is always good. But if the skimmer's not working to remove them, that's always been my thing. Like the skimmer's number one. If you don't have a skimmer or sump or some or can't think of it, not sump. Oh my gosh, what's the macros in a sump? Refugium or something that you're harvesting and removing the stuff, then it's just kind of pointless. It's killing stuff and it's sitting there, right?
Yeah, the thing is, I mean, you're probably better off if you're just using a UV for algae control. Set up an algae scrubber.
Right. And I actually have a scrubber on the tank too, so kind of ridiculous. I'll leave the UV off and let's see how that goes. But did you also have advice about the skimmer, Cheryl? Like what am I
What I was
doing
going to
wrong?
say is, I have a love-hate relationship with skimmers, and most of them I hate. The skimmers I'm using currently, I've been using since around 2012, and one of the things that happens is most skimmers have a single opening for air and water intake. What happens is if you don't keep that clean, and when I say clean, you need to literally put it in vinegar and remove the hard water
Right.
that gets stuck in there, or they're not going to function properly.
Yeah.
And you need to clean that air water intake out. Also, when I do water changes, I automatically turn mine down
Hmm.
because I already know what's going to happen when I start stirring stuff up, adding water, yada yada yada. If I don't turn them down, they're going to start overflowing on me. I turn them down. I do everything else, change my filter stocks, everything else I need to get done. Give them a few minutes to adjust, and then I gradually bring them back up to the level I want, where the bubbles are just starting to come over the top, and I've got a lot of bubbles. I don't run a lot of wet skimming.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Well,
and what you just said really made me a light bulb moment because I do like turn the pumps off for feeding, have the feed mode, and I haven't been turning the skimmer off, but that still wouldn't make sense as to it overflowing at night. So for my case specifically, we all wanted, and Holly wants advice on adjustments too. So if you have any advice on adjusting a skimmer and getting it set perfectly, that we want. And also, I want to know if you have that mini G skimmer because I need to know if I've got that O ring in wrong, or what's going on. I also thought about level of water in the sump because my sump is just a tank. Like it's a tank with the homemade algae scrubber that Ronald Chinner's made me. So the water comes from the tank into the scrubber, but then there's no like, and there's baffles because of the homemade algae scrubber has a baffle. So there's a little baffle before it comes through, but then it's just the skimmer and the pump. So could it be that I think I'm careful. But maybe when I top off, maybe I'm doing it late
you're,
and I don't know.
you're getting more water, a higher water level in there. When you turn off the pumps, first of all, it's going to start filling up your heating sump.
Right.
Don't have the skimmer in the highest baffle area where it's already adjusted to take the highest flow. It's going to overflow
Yeah.
because you're going to build up with the water. That's one thing. The other thing too I found is like when I change filter stocks, typically my skimmers will go a little bonkers when I first add the clean filter stocks
Mm.
because you're changing what they're getting.
That might be part of it too. Yeah.
And also, I've noticed it seems to because when I'm working in that section where the skimmer sits, I'm moving it back and forth, and sometimes the air intake is closer to the wall of the sump and so it changes the dynamics, and I have to adjust because it sits all by itself in there, right? So it's not secured, it moves. So when I'm pulling the filter sock out, I have to move the skimmer out of the way
And you're
and
gonna
push it
totally
back, and so it's doing this. And another thing is because when I added the chiller,
Mm-hmm.
the water volume in the sump increased
Mm-hmm.
because of, I guess, because of the rate of flow changed through it. And so now water is higher in the sump where the skimmer is than where it used to sit before I had the chillers.
Right.
So dynamics have changed in the sump, and I don't quite know how to adjust the skimmer to accommodate that,
Put,
you know,
put your
which way
skimmer
to go.
put your skimmer on a skimmer stand,
Mm.
so it stays at a set level in the tank.
I like that.
Then what I do is I put rocks around it to keep it from moving, so it
Okay.
can't move anywhere. So it never shifts position unless I actually physically go in and rearrange stuff.
Uh-huh.
I like those tips. And Heather said, Kelly, are you cleaning the riser tube when you empty? I'll be real with you. I really super duper cleaned it right before I started this tank back up, but no. So I will start doing that. Thank you. But I'm in a second, I'm literally going to get up and pull the riser tube to show you because the way the Mini G works is it's got, I won't bring the whole skimmer over here, that'd get everything wet, but I can bring the little thing because I think my problem is that the way this skimmer works is it has on the side of the skimmer it has on the side of the skimmer it has like what looks like a riser, I guess, that just sits there. Then there's this piece which I'm assuming you say clean in addition to that part, but this piece that literally comes out and it has an angled edge at one end so that I could do like what Holly says, once you put it back in you can turn it to adjust how much the bubbles are getting up in there. And then for the airflow, this type of skimmer just has one of those airlines that come up and sticks up. But so my big problem is, and I'll show you in a minute, that when I cleaned it big time, I really cleaned it. And so the O-ring is like sitting on my table because it wouldn't go back in. Like every time I tried to do it, it would overflow. And I know it wasn't the amount in the tank. I'm sorry, the amount of water in the sump because it worked before I cleaned it. So it just didn't make any sense to me. So I'm currently using a rubber band to keep that thing in the place where I want it to be because the O-ring's not cutting it. So maybe I need a new one, but I'll show you guys in a minute. And as for Salty Reef, asked every skimmer has a break-in period before it runs properly. So this is not as new, and you asked also how long the skimmer been running. This skimmer ran this tank perfectly for 5 years probably. It's just that when I let the tank go to poop, it still kind of ran, not, but I just wasn't taking care of it. So when I decided to add seahorses back to the tank, I really, really cleaned everything, the pump, the skimmer, the everything. I literally took the sump apart and scrubbed everything. Anyways, so does that mean I'm going through another break-in period? I really think it's the O-ring, but I'll show you guys in a minute. I just want to read the comments real quick, guys. Go ahead.
With sitting there, you got to build up a gunk in the intakes, and so it's not functioning the way it should be. I have extra spare parts that I use. If one of my skimmers starts acting a little goofy, I just remove the intakes off of it, put in a new clean one, and I'm good to go.
Right.
But it's one of those things, as I said, I have a love-hate relationship with skimmers.
Well, and Poisonon's Kitchen said I would never run a skimmer 24/7. So we're gonna have that conversation in a second. And Calypso's Reef, glad you're in the house. Okay, so 24/7 skimmer running. The only question I have for you about that is I would never run a skimmer 24/7 on a reef, but on a seahorse tank, I just always have. Do you guys not? Do you have?
Run 24/7.
24/7 if you're gonna use it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do. I run mine 24/7, and I
Okay.
don't have reef tanks. They're all
The
seahorse.
thing is, it's like the skimmers I have now, I've been using for a number of years, and the same skimmers Elisa uses and Dan uses.
Mm-hmm.
They're much easier to adjust and much more reliable than many other skimmers who ended up in the trash can.
Right. Well, and like I said, I have really liked this mini G skimmer. It's worked perfect for so many years, but maybe it's just time for a new skimmer. And I want before we gloss over to anything else, Ray, back to seahorses. Your advice, even though I'm trying to figure out what the problem might be, your advice is to do what?
Well, very first thing I want to mention, first of all, when it comes to a seahorse tank, in my opinion, UV use is kind of a non-issue.
Okay.
There is no point in it, in my opinion. First of all, it doesn't kill any of the bacteria that normally affect our seahorses because they are benthic, not pelagic, and don't go through the UV.
Ah,
And as far as using it to control algae, it's much better for the tank and things like dissolved organics as well. Because if you have algae problems, you're going to have dissolved organic problems.
right.
And so the problem is, or the solution is to fix the problem. Don't try to just cover up and do something to kill off the algae because you're still going to have the bacteria.
Well, wait, but I know you have more to say. Wait. I know you have more to say, but about that, I just want to be clear. When I cleaned up this tank, I told you I tore apart the sump. I pulled every rock at different times so I didn't lose all the bacteria. And I did this in salt water. Salty has always talked about curing the rock. I'm rushing, I didn't want to wait. So I know, bad on me. But I literally, in a tub with salt water and an airline, scrubbed the crap out of these rocks, but there's still some that have hair algae. Now I can do massive water changes, I can, blah, 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 blah. But I was just trying to make sure that didn't grow. Like it's already there. I've scrubbed, it won't come off. There's just little hairs everywhere on some of the rocks. So what do you thought?
Did it work?
90%, yes. But there's,
I still think the answer is to control the removal and the input. In other words, the input comes from your food.
yeah,
Your removal is the various processes, your filters, and clean your filters a couple times a week. Um, your skimmer obviously is a good thing, but you brought up you're having problems getting it adjusted. Well, the first thing I would automatically think of, if I'm having problems with my skimmer getting it adjusted, it's not going to be doing its job, so automatically it means I have to change my protocols.
yes,
And so you should have been doing more water changes, more frequent water changes, whatever, until you solve the problem with the skimmer.
yes.
By not doing it, you allow for the dissolved organics to build up, the bacteria builds up, and now you may have an internal bacterial situation with the seahorse.
Agreed. Yep, you're not wrong, and I'm ashamed. But go ahead.
Well, that's basically.
Well, the third thing, what I was trying to,
I put it in a hospital tank immediately, slowly drop that temperature down to 68, and make sure you keep changing that water. Right now, antibacterial meds are pretty hard to find um, here in Canada, and I think it's getting worse in the U.S. now.
It is.
So you're going to have to probably depend on having the water changes so it's got good clean water all the time, and hope that it's going to reverse things. If you do have some antibacterial treatments, then I'd be ready to start using them if the water changes itself in the hospital tank don't solve the problem.
sorry, I'm literally taping the orange female swimming around like there's nothing wrong. So I'm like, bitch, eat. But anyways, so I'm curious what the rest of you guys think because here's my plan. And I want to be clear, I'm extremely happy with these seahorses from Ocean Rider. As we've discussed, whatever's going on with these orange guys is my fault. And just to let you guys know also, now I'm gonna deal with the things that I can't even remember his darn name that comes every week. What's his name? Daniel? No. Anyways, yeah, Dylan. Thank you. Sorry, Dylan. I'm terrible with names, but Dylan's Reef. is constantly talking, and he's thinking of restarting his whole tank because of algae problems. So now I'm right there with you. It's self-inflicted, my own fault, and I will follow Ray's thoughts and screw the UV because I didn't know that the bacteria that we're against is benthic. That's really interesting. Also, you know, but now I'm dealing with rock that has hair algae on it. So I know you guys have asked about this repeatedly. Now I'm fixing to go through it with you. But I'll post this when I'm done. What I was doing is videotaping the orange one swimming around like there's nothing wrong. I'm like, eat, lady. But so okay, rambling. So I'm curious, Cheryl, Holly, anybody in the audience, we always do recommend putting seahorses into a hospital tank immediately the second that they don't eat. So I totally agree. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to feed them one more time when we're done here. I'm on a bad schedule, so this is normal timing for feeding them. But I will feed them try to feed one more time. If they don't eat, I'm going to put them in a hospital tank, period. Thoughts?
Well, the thing is, you need to, yes, you need to move them, but you also need to find out what's causing the problem
Right.
in the tank.
Right.
And where a lot of people fail, anytime the tank looks at me cross-eyed, it's going out, it's getting bleached, and it's going to get set back up,
Mm.
and then cycled again. And everything in it is going through bleach. And it's one of those things where when I set up a system, it is basically a sterile system.
Right. Well, I want to say this to you, Cheryl, because I know you recommend that, and I think you're right, just to be clear. But I actually called Dan when I decided that I was going to move the males over here and add 2 more seahorses. And I was like, okay, listen, I totally do know that the way you start up again with seahorses is you've got to bleach the tank and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, Dan, I really don't want to. I just don't want to. That's so much work and so much water. I mean, you're talking about it's probably 100 gallons altogether. So I'm like, is there any other way, Dan? And so before I did move the seahorses over, not only did I, and I'm saying this because maybe that was my big mistake, Cheryl. Maybe I should have bleached the rock because it did have seahorses in it previously that were all fine, but we know about mixing seahorses. So maybe that was my no-no. And I might have to do that. I will if I have to, but I did use peroxide and probiotics in the tank before I added new seahorses, and they've been fine up until I replumbed the UV and I have skimmer issues.
Well,
But
how
it
long
could
was
be,
it
wait, one more thing.
though?
It could be what Ray was saying. It could be that because the skimmer wasn't working well, and because the UVs, whatever, maybe I wasn't doing enough water changes to compensate for those mechanical
Well,
How many
filters.
meals did they miss, Kelly? How long
One,
have they not been eating?
one. They just didn't eat today.
Well, then, here's what might be, because mine will do this sometimes. If I spend a day messing around in the tank,
Mm.
and if I'm not done till late, sometimes they're just wore out by the experience and don't want to eat that day, and then they're fine by breakfast.
Well,
You
yeah,
know,
right. That's what I'm saying. I'm gonna try one more feeding. Not trying to get out of hospital tank because I will do it. And
if you
again,
were
I'm
messing
happy
around
with
in
these
their tank,
seahorses.
that could be it.
Whatever's going on though is my fault. What, Ray?
I've never had that happen.
Me either. To be honest, me either. But
If they don't eat, it's for more than just once.
right. And as I said, I tried just the regular feeding for breakfast, which is my SIDS, and the other 2 seahorses ate. Just the orange ones didn't, which is very strange.
I can go in and completely clean a tank, siphon it, clean the glass inside and out and everything else. And the whole time my seahorses are going to be sitting there going, when are you going to feed it?
Right. But and that was the second follow-up thing is I tried for lunch live Artemia and they didn't eat that. So that's really worrying.
Yeah.
And one other question for you guys, just while we're on this subject, because I know that people that watch this show have these same problems and you know they're embarrassed to ask the question. Well, here I am, Seahorse Whisperer, asking these questions, guys, because shit happens. But anyway, and we'll figure it out. We'll fix it. But the only other thing I could think of is I did add peppermint shrimp that are very large. I told you I quarantined them at least for a couple weeks, and with water changes and all that. But to give you an idea, the males from Seahorse stores are no joke, like this big, right? 2 males. The two little orange ones are this big, which, you know, they're beautiful. It's fine. I get it. They were young, sold or whatever. But could these huge peppermint shrimp be picking on them?
It could have been that. The thing is too, unless you're sure what you're getting is actually aquaculture,
Mm-hmm.
they can even bring in potential problems in terms of parasites and bacteria. And that's why I'm fanatical. If it's not aquaculture from a known source, it ain't coming in this house.
Right.
And that goes for amphipods, anything, mysids, anything.
It's the way it should be. Okay, let me jump to comments really quick. Let's see. If you super clean the sump and the skimmer, it can actually be going through another break-in. Okay, thanks. When I grab it and show you my rubber band, you can tell me where the O-ring is supposed to go. Or if I need a new one. Or just a new skimmer. If your seahorse tank is full of plants, I'm not sure why you have one in the first place. Skimmer over and over again can starve out bacteria growth in tanks. Okay, well, first off, I don't have macros in this tank right now. I do have a scrubber in the sump. But that was kind of my thought process, is what happened. Long story short, I won't ramble on and on, but 2 years ago my mom passed away, and I just kind of didn't do anything else with my life, period, because I went through this depression and stuff, and it was really awful. And I didn't take care of the tank, and because I wasn't keeping up with it, the scrubber pieces, like I wasn't harvesting it fast enough. I still was, but just not fast enough, and so pieces of that algae would get thrown back into the tank, and that's how the rocks got covered with algae. So, anyways, I forgot where I was even going with that, but I'm trying to have that go in between the scrubber and the tank was I think where I was going. Um,
Depending on the type of algae, uh, it's like green hair algae. The tank gets green hair algae. I know it's a new tank. I've got too high a nutrient composition and there are too high phosphates in there. And I know that given some time, it'll take care of itself. I don't sweat that.
mhm.
Um, so I don't really worry too much about algae.
I don't usually either. It's just this is literally algae scrubber algae that's on my rocks, so it's little hairy, ugly green things. It's only one rock that I couldn't scrub off well enough, but I should have just bleached it. Anyways, so Salty Reef and Poisonons is having a discussion in the comments about skimmers because Salty said if you're feeding correctly, in my opinion, a skimmer is much needed. Love to hear more opinions. Ray, what's feeding properly in a seahorse tank?
If you can afford it, go with the biggest skimmer that you can put on a seahorse tank. If you can't afford it, do more water changes, and you can get around it that way. Trying to think.
No, and I wanted to know too. I wanted to know what you think a proper feeding schedule is because I think a lot of people don't understand that we do feed seahorses more.
People, I think people are all wrong in their feeding. I get too many people that are feeding twice a day, or even 3 times a day, and they're putting too much food in. You're going to end up with too much waste. You're going to boost uh, dissolved organics and end up with problems. If you feed less each time and do it more often,
Yep.
you'll end up probably using overall less food, and the seahorses are going to benefit by having time to process it before it's being pushed out in fecal pellets, uh, because they're not forcing it
Fecal
through by
pellets.
continually being able to eat. It's like that bit about the fry and the baby frying shrimp. And if you put too many in there, next thing you know, you got the live fry coming out. Well, they're not getting any digestive capabilities that way. Same theory works when feeding frozen mysis to the adults. You start giving them too much, it's going to push it through, and their digestive tract is very rudimentary. It doesn't extract a lot of nutrient from it. So if you start pushing the stuff through too fast, it's not going to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
If you limit the amount of food that they can take, you're going to end up then the food's going to sit there in the digestive tract and it's going to get more nutrient extracted from it.
Right.
By feeding more often, you can basically end up with using less overall food. The seahorse will get more nutrient extracted from it. There'll be less fecal matter to break down. There'll be less uneaten food left to break down. Because I don't care what anybody says, your cleanup crew is not going to get it all.
Right.
And for that matter, the cleanup crew, if they eat it, they're going to produce their fecal product, and it goes on and on down through the system. So you still got the organics being produced all down through the system. Life form there is.
Absolutely. Hey, I just wanted to say real quick before we get more comments, that Poisonons, I want to make clear too, as Salty did in the comments, not argumentative, to each their own. If something's working for you, Holly only feeds twice a day and it works for her, so we just give her opinions and advice and what's worked for us. And but I would love to hear about the food that you make now, because that's cool. I tried that one time and I sucked at it, so would love to hear about. They said, I make food now, education in biological bacteria and zooplankton. Love it. I'd love to hear more about that. And yeah, Salty, if you want to jump in and talk more, that's fine. 10-minute warning. I got to get to the Macna stuff, but go ahead, Cheryl.
Well, one of the things too, I only one of my tanks has any sand, and when I feed, I watch them consume the food, and I also don't want to see any food sitting on the bottom of the tank. And if you feed them more often in smaller quantities, it's much easier to keep a tank clean and
Right.
keep your dissolved organics down, and keep your bacteria down. And the seahorses grow like very different from what most people do. I add a lot less. I do it every hour and a half to 2 hours. And I watch to make sure I want to see the food gone or almost gone before I feed them again. And it's the same principle that I use with my adults. I don't want it sitting around in a waste. And it's easy for me now too. I'm home all the time. When I was working full time, 10.5-hour days, it wasn't really as much of an option. And I realized that.
Gotcha. Go ahead with any other comments. I'm grabbing the piece that I want to show you guys. But, and yeah, so Holly, talk about your feeding schedule.
Oh, so basically, the idea is I want to feed them twice a day because that's roughly what I have time for. Like Cheryl said, I'm still working, and each feeding is at least an hour because I have to feed both tanks and then siphon out both tanks when I'm done. But what happens in my display tank is they don't all want to eat at one time sometimes. So what happens?
You need to get hard nosed.
They've got
This is
betrayed.
the one feeding. You are not getting fed by hand with a turkey baster just because you decided not to come to breakfast on time.
But I like using the turkey baster though, Cheryl, because I love when they come right up to it and they eat out of it. It's awesome. Go ahead, Holly. Sorry.
So it'll be time to eat, and part of it is because I don't have a set schedule because I'm an insurance agent and I work by appointment. So some days I might be home earlier than others. The time that I try to feed them in the afternoon is like 2 to 3 o'clock. But what'll happen sometimes is, I go to feed them at 2, and there's 4 seahorses in that tank. The girls always want to eat. So they're always right there. Okay, Mom, feed us. They'll eat. They're done. A half hour, 45 minutes goes by. Nobody else is interested. Okay, I go suck up the food. 15, 20 minutes later, somebody else shows up. Hey, now I'm hungry.
No, that's when you say
and then the girls come back. They're all, okay, we'll eat again.
Yeah. Dinner's not coming out for a few more hours. You're not getting fed. You don't come to eat now. You're not going to get more until the next week.
Cheryl is cracking the whip.
Gotta crack the whip. Now, breakfast always the same because I wake up and go feed them, and so they're always eating at the same time every morning. But afternoons, I might not even be home by their feeding time
Right.
some days. So it's not really a set thing.
That's when you speed.
Well, see, what's funny for me too is you
Or
guys.
say, I can't see you at 2 o'clock. I have to feed my seahorse.
I can reach you at 3:30. Yeah.
What's funny to me though is you got everybody always when like I'll be on the phone with Dan or whoever, and I'll be like, okay, well I guess I'm gonna go feed the seahorses, and it's 10 o'clock, and he's like, what the hell are you doing? And man, I'm on a bad schedule. And ask anybody who's tried to call me before noon. I'm not answering. Anyways, guys,
But
unfortunately,
you know what? It all works out. They eat. They're not starving.
right.
You know, nobody's like.
When we get done, I'm gonna post a picture of the bellies on these
I guess what I'm
seahorses.
saying
They're
is I want to see my seahorses hungry. I want to see them when they see me. The whole darn lot of them
yep.
better be coming to the front of the tank, or somebody's going into a quarantine.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny, Cheryl, is
That happens when I'm gone. If I stay away from home,
oh yeah.
like once in a while I escape and I'm not home for dinner or breakfast the next morning. They miss a meal or two. And oh boy, do they come to the for attention. They're, oh, Mom, where have you been?
The
We
thing
are
is,
starving. We're going to die.
I broadcast feed.
Right.
So when you eat, you're going to be expending energy because you have to go down. So it's not just going to fat, body fat. It's also going to an energy expenditure.
No, that makes sense. And I'll tell you, that's what is funny to me is in the out of the 4 seahorses I got from Ocean Rider, and I love all my seahorses. They're just the new ones. You guys know how it is. I still love Aphrodite. I still love my boys. But anyways, in the 65-gallon tank with the orange ones, the female is like, oh, she sees me and she's like, bam, front of the tank, up front and center. Where's my food? I do broadcast feed, but I just like using a turkey baster. It's like you're connecting with them or something. So I'll give them. She'll come right up and eat out of the baster, stick her snout in the baster, and then in the all in one out of the yellows, the male is that way and the female's not.
Yeah.
So it's exact opposite. It's funny.
See, mine, I broadcast feed. When I walk up, when I change the lighting when I'm getting ready to clean up the lighting. And by the time I get that food hitting the tank, they're already up at the top pulling it out of the water.
Yep.
The whole bottom.
And at least we don't have to worry about them snicking at the top because, it's been proven, Dan proved it, that doesn't cause what the GBD stuff. Anyways, I wanted to say 2 things real quick. Heather agrees with you, Ray, about feeding. I think you saw it in the comments, but I just wanted to publicly say that. And then, y'all, you can see my janky DIY. This is unfortunately, the people in the Zoom, I know you can't see it. Maybe look later. But this is the piece that I'm talking about for the skimmer. And it literally sits down in another piece that's just a little bigger. And then, the O-ring typically would keep it at wherever it's, works best. And then the end of this is like that, so that once you get it perfect, it was like that, so that once you get it perfect and you twist it, something in the internals, makes it higher or lower. But the O-ring is like stretched out or something. It won't hold it up right. It falls right in. So I'm literally using rubber band. So I need to know, y'all, could that maybe be my problem? Do I need a new O-ring or just a new skimmer? I'm over it.
You know what? Try Googling the owner's manual if you don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they'll have in it like a parts list and directions for ordering parts if you need one.
Yes.
The O-rings,
I find
get around the outside, they burn out and break pretty easily in shoulder work.
Well, and the interesting thing to me, and Salty, you might, or anybody in the comments might know, or even you guys, well, the Zoom people can't see it. But the interesting thing to me is the way it was running before I cleaned the heck out of it was the O-ring kept it really like this much would be up out of the thing. Enough where your hand, you can just turn it. But now, when I'm using rubber bands, if I go any lower than this, like look, more of it's in the skimmer than out. There's not even enough really for your hand to turn it. And if I go anywhere lower than it's overflowing. So does that mean, like, I can't imagine that I've got too much water in the sump but I could try that if you think that's it, maybe lowering the water volume in the sump, but it was the same before I cleaned it. So it's just really strange to me. I don't know.
This is why I say I have a love-hate relationship with skimmers.
Yeah. So.
And the ones I use now, they're strictly in sump. They're big. They're rated for 180 gallons.
Yeah.
And they don't cause me a lot of problems.
Well, that's the other thing, Cheryl, I thought about doing is I do have, oh, I'm so bad with names, you guys, but I do have an ASM. I know that's an ASM. It's rated for like 120 gallons, but I don't care. That's fine with me. It would just fill up lesser or fill up. I can't think of my words tonight. Take longer to fill up. No biggie. If I adjust it to where it's not over crazy taking it out. But it's one of those skimmers. I'll try to post pictures when I'm done, y'all. But it's one of those skimmers where the pump that goes to the skimmer is on the outside. And I'm sorry, I forgot to say, this is the skimmer that I used on the 90-gallon tank, which is not currently running. It doesn't have water in it. So it's just sitting there. I could clean that and use it instead, but I don't like when the pump's outside of the skimmer and like connects to it, because I do know that when it was running that I'm just terrible with O-rings and little pieces. But the piece where the pump goes into the skimmer, there's a little rubber round thing that like makes it, smushed together and no air. I'm so good with my words. But anyways, that piece, for some reason, no matter what I did, it always seemed loose, and it always seemed to, the skimmer worked. But that's another question. When I was talking about the UV way earlier, is that I'm kind of also worried that like the attachments aren't tight enough. So for instance, they don't leak, but when I first replumbed, and we're going to turn off the UV, don't worry. But when I first replumbed it, it was like dripping out in this spot, and I twisted it, put another zip tie on, and then it stopped leaking. But could there be air getting into that, and how important is that? Does that affect the tank? I see bubbles in the tank.
Yeah, I'd have to see the skimmer. Like
Okay.
I said, all my old skimmers got gutted, got holes drilled in them, got turned into K1 media rail. That's what I think about a lot of skimmers.
Personally, I don't think it's worth using a skimmer unless it's about 4 times at least rated for 4 times more. It's going to do very little if it's only rated for the size of tank you're using, or twice the size, and it means you're going to have to do more work husbandry wise anyway. So just do a touch more and do without.
Well, that's I'm gonna make a comment that's gonna lead into that Macna discussion. I'm jealous of the conversation going on in the comments. I wish I could go be in that. Our conversation's amazing, but
think about the fact that when I first started, I had hang-on back skimmers,
right,
and those overflow too.
right. Well, I was gonna say, in my all-in-one tank, I've complained about the skimmer. It was the biggest I could find that was available. Salty and Harkins Aquatics both advised me on the skimmer I should get, but I couldn't find one anywhere. They were like completely out of stock and weren't going to have any for months. So I went with an innovative marine skimmer. It's rated for like 65 gallons and the tank is 40. So I'm totally with Ray. It's not good enough. I've had to do extra water changes, and I have to empty that little skimmer cup constantly. And I know that we talked about this another week about maybe adding a skimmer like Ray did that's not very pretty, but it's outside the tank, or possibly, at least Heather advised, maybe adding another hang-on back skimmer that's not great, but the more you have, the better it's doing, I guess. Still working on that one. In the meantime, I'm doing massive water changes constantly, and here's the lead into Macna. I use Aquachar. And I'm curious, before I go to the Macna, Cheryl, have you started using it? What do you think?
I'm sorry?
Aquachar.
What was it, you or Holly that got Aquachar?
I have not
I'm
tried
using
it.
Oh.
it.
Okay, Holly, any thoughts?
I haven't noticed a difference myself, but I've only been using it maybe a little over a month.
Gotcha.
And like I've been saying, I've changed other things too, because I've also got the chillers.
Right.
I making the Rodi water now, RODI water. I got one of those, so I make my own water now. I changed the lighting on the display tank. I added wave makers. So I've changed a few things. And the skimmers, my skimmers for both tanks are rated for 240 gallons.
Nice.
And I have a 55-gallon and a 74-gallon tank. And they do a good job, but I'm not sure how to tune them. When I get them
Right.
tuned, it's by accident,
Right.
honestly. So I don't know whether letting more air in, what does that do? Changing the water level, that I figured out, I think that has to do with helping the bubbles rise higher.
Mm-hmm.
I've had it before, like Cheryl was saying, because I don't have them stable. When I move it, it changes the conditions of the skimmer. So I've had it when I first added the chillers, and I was trying to figure stuff out. I fixed it, but I don't know how I fixed it.
Right.
At first, I was getting the situation you talked about. I believe this is what it is, where bubbles, tiny bubbles, were coming out of the bottom of the skimmer.
Mm.
Okay,
You know, into the
you've got
sun.
too much airflow, airflow, and not enough water flow if it's shooting out the bottom.
Okay, so that's when you tighten the screw to close down the air.
Yeah.
Is when you have too much air in the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, I can get my skimmers to fill up my sumps with air bubbles.
Right, and that's, yeah, we don't want that, and that's what's happening. Hey, real quick, guys.
And then to get the bubbles come up higher into the cup, like, because mine will be like the cup's up here, and they're like this.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where you turn the thing to adjust the water level?
Exactly.
Is that what controls that?
What you want to do is get it so it's producing a lot of nice big bubbles. They're rising up very well. And then you adjust your water flow so those bubbles will come over and pop in the cup.
Yeah, just over.
Okay, hey guys. Wait. Time out. 2 seconds. Cause Salty, I see you gotta go. I hope you're still here for a second. Check your text messages because I actually texted you this week, like literally text, about what we had talked about a few weeks ago, and then I just saw that you possibly have a skimmer I could finagle out of you. Please answer your text message or reach out to me because very interested. And Poison, I see Aqua Char, yay. I'm getting ready to talk when they're done. Holly, Cheryl, finish up what you're saying. Sorry.
So when another thing, okay, so when I'm doing my cleaning and I turn off the water pump, I should turn down the skimmer, but not turn it off. Turn down the power, right?
Don't do anything with your air. Leave your air the same. Reduce your
mine's
water.
got a power adjuster, so I can control the motor. I can turn it down.
Turn down the water flow. Then what happens? You finish filling it back up. Let it stabilize for a few minutes, and then I have actually used indelible marker. I have markers on the water adjustment and markers on the holder, so I know exactly where to turn them to.
Wow. And I was going to say, I've got permanent marker on the outside of my sump for water line, so if I need to adjust that. But no, all good tips, and I think if I can reach out and get in touch with Salty, maybe I'll make him do a Zoom so he can adjust his skimmer and show us how to do it. Or if I figure out my skimmer problem, I will definitely do a video and share. Okay, so we do have to get
Skimmers
to the...
that were made by somebody that wanted to go south. So.
Right. Okay, I do have to...
I kid about them.
I know, but I've got to do the Macna stuff, and then we can talk. You know, you guys know after we're offline, we can talk. But guys, Macna is this weekend. Woo! Yay! So, in case you don't...
55, right?
Okay, so Macna itself, which is always amazing, Is it Macna is $50 for a ticket, and I think it's 3 days. Yeah, it's 3 day event, and it's amazing. So I totally advise you guys to go and get a Macna ticket. However, Macna is wonderful in that they help um, us do two different events: women in reefing and seahorse and pipefish events. There's also really cool other events like rainbow reefers. I'm not involved with them. I am involved with them, excuse me, but I don't run them. So let me advertise my events. Anyways, Women in Reefing is going to be really cool this year, guys. We have Erin and Cynthia from Quality Marine that are coming, and we did a practice Zoom last night to just chat about, how the schedule was going to work. I was floored. You have no idea. Oh my gosh, they are really leading the way. They are such leaders in the industry as a quality marine, as a part of quality marine. And then like 70% of their husbandry staff, I'm not speaking right, is women. I mean, it's really cool. As I've always said, Women in Reefing is about supporting and acknowledging the successes of women from every area of the hobby and industry. We're not here to, cry, whine, and moan about anything. We're here to prop up and lift up the people that are really leading the way, and these two ladies are. So you don't want to miss hearing from them. And it won't be like they're going to give a little presentation each, like 10 minutes. It won't be like previous events where somebody talks the whole time. This time, we're going to do more roundtables. So you can ask them anything you want. You can share your tank. If you're a store owner, you can talk about your store. We have Kat and Grace Romano from the Reef Farm also coming to like give a little teeny tiny presentation, but we have 2 hours for this Women in Reefing event. So there's going to be plenty of time for sharing and you to speak and you to talk. It's free, it's virtual. There's no reason not to come, dudes. And guys are welcome too. If you support women, get over there and register for the event. It's free.
If you identify as a man,
That too. Thank you very much. If you, I don't care what you identify as. If you support Women in Reefing, come to our event. We would love to hear from you, share with you, have you share with us. Not to mention these amazing speakers, special guests, because it is going to be more roundtable where everybody can talk. But also, we've got all these awesome prizes. Reef Nutrition supports Women in Reefing every single year. So we have I think Women in Reefing is two $50 gift cards that will be given away to someone at the event. You can check the rules in the post. We have Seahorse Whisperer, this gal, is giving away two $30 merchandise credits, meaning Women in Reefing merchandise. And don't forget that 40% of all sales for that merchandise goes back to the Women in Reefing community. And we just gave away this time our first free ticket to someone to go to the $50 Macna based on those extra sales. So like 40% of the sales come back to us and we give someone a free ticket to go to the next event. We're going to be live events next year, not virtual. So that's going to be even more of a prize. But we had our first winner the other day and we announced it on the page. So check that out. Anyways, getting back to it, Aquachar. So with Women in Reefing, Aquachar is giving a 15% off coupon code. So we will have Brian there to talk about Aquachar. Not like taking up a speaker spot, but if you have any questions about Aquachar, he's going to be there. So let's get in there and give him some support and talk about how we use Aquachar for sure. And then who am I forgetting? Oh, M&M Aquatics has 3 different prizes that will be given away at the event. A shirt, some frag plugs. I don't have it in front of me. I'm so sorry. But there's also like an adjustable 5-plug holder. So really cool prizes from M&M Aquatics that we really are thankful for. If I'm leaving anybody out, I'm going to feel terrible. I got Aquachar, Reef Nutrition, Seahorse Whisperer. And then actually you might want to watch our page because there might just be a Quality Marine prize announced this week. Wink, wink. So make sure you register for the free event. I will make sure that the link is in the description. Now for the Seahorse and Pipefish event that I know you folks are all excited for. Not only this is our last virtual event probably. Hopefully Macna will find a way to, expand and do something virtual in the future too. But we know this is for sure virtual, so we're doing it. Oh, sorry. Back up. One last thing about women in reefing is, no, you know what? I'm sorry, I'm rambling. I'm jumping around. So sorry. Okay, so for Seahorse and Pipefish, we have Rochelle and Chris. So Chris joins us a lot on Wine Wednesday. He's from Seahorse Australia, which is affiliated with and attached to Seahorse World. One's a farm, Seahorse Farm. One is like a tourism business. They've got a restaurant, all this other cool stuff. I recently got with Rochelle to do a women in reefing video. I kind of crossed these people constantly, but Rochelle and Chris will be coming to not speak, but more, we'll ask them questions and they'll answer them. So it's Q&A again. And then also Ocean Reef Aquaculture. Steve and his wonderful assistant, I'm going to kick myself, but I can't remember her name. Oh, I'm so sorry. But I will put it in the comments. Anyway, she's amazing. She helps them learn how to use the phone, right? But they will be there. So they are the ones that are like providing captive bred sea dragons to America. They are currently working on some new species of seahorses, and they want to know from us whether or not these seahorses will do well. One of them is a cold water species, and I'm like, yeah, now abdominalis can have friends in their tank, right? But anyways, they're going to be there to also maybe give us a little tour of the facility like they did on Wine Wednesday, and also answer any questions and just chat with us. So it's going to be a great time. That event also has tons of sponsors. Reef Nutrition, again, always supports us. $100 gift card. So think of all the Apex pods you could get, Cheryl. She claimed that last week, but anyways, $100 from...
Kelly?
Yes.
Is Ocean Reef Australia the one that's working with the breviceps right now?
Yes. Yes, breviceps. That's what I said. You could put them in with abdominalis. Shoot. Once you got to buy the chiller for them, why not? So we'll have a fantastic conversation about that. Aquachar is actually donating 100, I think it's a 100-gallon bag of Aquachar, 100-gallon rated bag, sorry, of Aquachar.
100-gallon tank. No,
Right, but my point, it might be 200 gallons.
100 gallons of Aquachar?
No, yeah, let me back up on that one. Not 100 gallons of Aquachar. Scratch that, edit. But no, and I literally found out Aquachar was going to support both events right before we started. So, and they're awesome. It was me that asked them last minute. So I'll get the details out in posts. Make sure to watch the page. But you could win some Aquachar by coming to the Seahorse and Pipefish event, or the $100 Reef Nutrition gift card, or Seahorse Whisperer is also doing $30 credits towards Seahorse and Pipefish merch. Again, 40% of any of those sales go back to the community, so we can give away free tickets to Macna time and time again. And oh gosh, there's one more. Oh, Paula Carlson. It will be there will be a post this week of some things that will be raffled off at the event from her. And I just wanted to also say, with Women in Reefing, we're making some major changes this year. You might want to watch like shows like Rap and Aquashella, because you might just see these events there. So we're growing, we're getting bigger. The live events will be awesome, but please join us for these two virtual free events. There's no reason not to come and join us and chat about things that we all care about. All right, I'm done with my spiel. You guys, I'll let you guys go to 9:30. We can chat about whatever. And Salty, no worries, but just text me. And I'll
Kelly,
check the comments. Go ahead.
Just before we go off,
Yeah.
I would like to compliment Heather Heather Hobby Seahorse.
No,
It's in very bad condition.
wait, tell me
She had
again.
a long talk. She had a long talk with the owner of the store, who was totally appreciative, understood what he had done wrong and the mistakes he made. She ended up taking the seahorse home to try to rehabilitate it, and they're completely changing the way they're going to be handling seahorses moving forward.
Okay, wait. Because we got it back. Wait. Because you froze. So I want to make sure everybody that watches this later is watching this now can hear this. So you're saying that Heather, the one with the sea shed, I think, what's her actual tag? I can't remember. Heather, say it if you want. But so she went to a store, saw a seahorse being cared for really badly, taught them how to care for him, and took that seahorse home to rehabilitate.
And now the store is changing the entire, putting together a separate tank, the whole 9 yards, specific for seahorses.
For Heather.
Awesome.
Good job.
I had
Cheers.
That's some good news too. Simple.
Yes,
I
please.
had a school teacher is interested in my seahorses,
Oh,
and
wow.
he's done saltwater tanks before, and already has a big saltwater tank in the classroom. But he had like an anemone and a clownfish in there. And I originally talked to his assistant, called for him, and was asking me how much the seahorses were and so on. And I kind of asked her, a few questions, about the tank, and she didn't know. And she's, oh, well, would you like to talk to him? I'm not the person. I said, yeah, please. So she put him on, and the school is not far from where I live, and he was willing to come and talk to me and look at the seahorses. I said, why don't you come on over and I'll show you my seahorse setups, because they're not hard, but they're different from other fish, and they'll
Mhm.
have some special
Yep.
requirements. So he came over and we talked, and he picked up on everything right away because he's used to doing saltwater tanks.
Yep.
So he understood, and he's interested. So he wants to set up a special saltwater tank for the seahorses.
Man.
And he loved my setup that was bare bottom, all artificial decorations, and he's got a chiller already. And and he says this is perfect because it's actually easy to take care of. And he
Yay.
loved the seahorses, and so he's like, yeah, give me some time, I want to set up the seahorse tank. And
Oh, man. Education in the
yeah,
classroom. Yes. And I wanted to
isn't that
mention,
great?
too that Salty, who has to go, Salty Reef in the comments, is going to get back into the hobby and start doing videos on how he would set up a seahorse tank, which goes along with most of the things we say here, except for he wouldn't make stupid mistakes like I did and not make sure the rock is not cured. He is going to do amazing videos. No, he's going to do amazing videos. So when he gets that channel up, when
Can
he
you please make a video about how to tune a skimmer?
I'm gonna make him do that. I'm gonna make him, and for sure, once he gets those videos up, this channel for sure will be recommending them because he's awesome, and we appreciate you, Salty. Also, I wanted to say about the schools getting more involved in researchers and stuff. That's one thing you might just hear about if you come to the Women in Reefing event, because one of the ladies speaking from Quality Marine works with schools in many different ways. So just telling you, it's going to be bigger than just, ooh, yay, Quality Marine, which is big anyways. But these ladies as individuals are amazing. So I got to keep going back to it. I'm sorry, not trying to be an ad here, but you really should come. It's going to be great.
It's one of those things. A friend of mine who used to be president of our local Marine Association was also a high school teacher. And in his house, he had a 500 plus gallon tank that he built skylights over the tank so that it would get natural sunlight.
Wow.
And he set up a class at the high school specifically about setting up marine aquariums.
Nice.
Cool.
He had a waiting list.
Yep.
I bet.
And think how much will change.
I'm gonna take off now.
Okay, Ray, thank you so much for coming. Sorry. Thanks.
Good to see you, Ray.
Stay safe, Ray.
And Heather, if you want to jump in and talk about the experience, feel free. If not, I didn't mean to put the pressure on. But Holly, just thinking about seahorses in the classroom, that's number one, dedicated teachers that really care about educating and sharing in aquaculture and captive breeding and passing on the message and showing, how much that would change the perspective if kids grew up thinking seahorses, captive bred seahorses. Let's make sure they're good in the ocean, but captive bred seahorses are not hard. They just need a different setup. Oh my God. That would be so amazing. So cool. Let's all hope they don't make the same stupid mistakes I do because I'm lazy. But anyways. You know what? Sometimes it's good that I make these mistakes. I'm just going to justify it because, as I fix it, you guys get to see how I fix it. So we'll just go with that, right?
Kelly, if we didn't make mistakes,
right,
we would never learn and we would never be able to advance this hobby.
Yeah.
So because one of us makes a mistake or does something that they go, ooh, that wasn't one of my better ideas, doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
Right.
That's
Well,
very important to keep in mind.
and I'll probably end up calling you, Cheryl, on the side and doing like a FaceTime video where I can show you because, you know what happens when something goes wrong. You start nitpicking. Well, I start nitpicking everything, and I'm like, is it this, or is it this, or is it that? And I was gonna say too, when Holly was saying about Aquachar, she can't really, and this is not, anything bad, but when you change too much at the same time,
Thank
You
you.
can't
you
tell.
don't know what happened wrong, or when you
If
change
you've got
so
a
many things
problem, you
for the
start throwing in everything but the kitchen sink.
right,
All of a sudden, the tank gets better, and you're like, I have no idea what I did that worked.
right. And in my
Now, I
that's in
with the
Holly's case, and then in
Aquajar, doesn't it take it a while to work? I mean, mine's still floating. And I
right,
did read it takes a while, and it's been about a month. So it takes a while before it'll sink once it starts growing bacteria, I guess it says in the instructions. So I don't think I've had it long enough for it to
Well, it
make a
has.
difference.
well, I've got a great idea. I've got a fantastic idea. Why don't we attend the events this weekend and ask Aquachar?
Yeah, how long? And yeah.
but yeah, no, like in your case,
And for
you
all
do
I
so
know,
many.
it's helping, but I can't.
No,
It's
right, right,
hard.
right,
It's something you can't really measure. I don't think.
It
right.
seems like
at
a lot.
this.
You'd love to be able to measure your O2 saturation, but it's not something we really have a test kit.
They're
Mm-hmm.
trying, I think. And Chimp the Reefer said mistakes lead to solutions. Correct. But my whole entire point is, in Holly's case, she changed so much for the good that she's not sure what's really enhancing the tank. Whereas in my case, I changed so much, unfortunately, for the bad that I don't know what the problem is,
Well, and when I added this stuff,
It
I
will lead to
wasn't having
solutions.
any problems, and my readings were actually good because I
Right.
tried to do it before, and then I've been testing after, but it wasn't bad to start with, and it hasn't
Right.
changed. So, but I think one thing that is changing in my display tank is the algae problem is
Mm.
correcting itself. I do have
Yes.
one question though for you guys that
Wait, wait,
I
wait, wait,
had
wait, wait. Holly,
thought
can you
of, but I don't
Holly,
know
Holly,
if
Holly,
this is
Holly, Holly,
Coraline
Holly,
algae.
Holly, can you wait 1 second? Because I just,
Yeah.
before we go to your final question, I wanted to say that's, if you go to my Instagram, you can see a post, I think it's somewhere, anyways, where she made a good point. When everything's good and you change something, you can't really tell the difference. And we will ask Aquachar about that at these events this weekend at Women in Reefing and Seahorse and Pipefish at Macna. But in my 40-gallon all-in-one, when I added Aquachar because they had a bacterial bloom, oh my gosh, 24 hours, it was cleaned
Yeah.
up. So when you have a problem, it really, I just wanted to hone in on what you just said, that it can make a big difference. But he will answer any questions at these events about the fact that, yes, sometimes if everything's good, you can't tell right away. It's more of a long-term solution because it's not just chemical filtration, it's biological. But I'll leave that to him to explain, and I'll shut up. Holly, go ahead.
There's an
So
old saying in this hobby:
Mm-hmm.
only bad things happen fast.
Right. Oh my God.
yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
anyway, what I was going to ask is because today I spent a lot of time with a plastic scraper scraping Coraline algae off the front of my
You
tank.
look beautiful.
Because, oh my gosh, I don't know if you can see my arm though. Look at that bruise.
Oh.
Can you imagine?
Because here's the thing with my tank, it's acrylic and it's not straight down, it has a lip on it. And I have a custom cover on the top of it, so have to remove the whole cover, reach around and down all the way to the bottom of the tank is where the Coraline algae was, because I can reach the rest of it, so I keep up on it other than where I can't reach. So today we took the whole cover off, and I got down there, it hurt my arm, scrubbing the heck out of the thing, and I still have more to do. But is there anything that the Coraline algae doesn't like or that won't hurt the tank with inhabitants to where it's easier to take off the glass? or is it you just have to scrape it off?
And Cheryl walked away, and I was looking at comments. Oh my gosh, I'm so
Yeah.
embarrassed. I'm so sorry. Can you repeat the end of it? Coraline
Okay,
Algae. I got
so
that part. I'm so sorry.
okay, so yeah, so for Coraline Algae,
This is
is
why I can't do
there
comments and stream.
anything that it doesn't like that
Mm.
wouldn't hurt the tank inhabitants so you can get it off the glass or whatever without just scraping the heck out of it? Is there an easier way?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
It's
Some people
one of
like the
those
Coraline Algae all over.
Well, I like it, but I don't like it in the window.
Right.
Right? I want to be able to
It's
see
fine
the
on
seahorse.
fine on your overflow or on the back. But,
Yeah, it's good, great on the rocks, not so much on the acrylic.
Yeah.
Right.
You'd have to. I've never had a problem with Coraline, and I rarely have problems with algae, so I'm not the best person to ask algae questions of. Uh, some of my reaper buddies, I'm sure, could come up with some real cool things.
Yeah, ask around and see, cause yeah,
I will.
it's very hard work.
I can ask Awas or Larry or one of them or John. John would be right there in a heartbeat to give me the information.
Poisidon
Let me
said,
ask one of them.
Poisidon said scrape it. But I'm going to suggest, again, Holly, I know you come to these events. I have to keep mentioning it. I'm sorry, I'm so excited. But let's ask at both Women in Reefing and Seahorse Pipefish events.
Yeah.
Let's ask. And there was one comment from Poisidon's. I really appreciate you coming tonight, Poisidon. I love that you're challenging things that are said because that's what we're here for. Wine Wednesday. Everybody does things differently, and one way is not always the only way. So love it. But you did ask, algae corrected itself. Did someone say that? The algae corrected itself? I don't know. I guess not. Well, anyways.
Well, algae will. It's like if I get green mirror algae in a tank, I ignore it for a month or two. Then I go in and take out a rock one at a time, clean it off, and the darn stuff never comes back.
Nice.
Different biopsies.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things when you're starting a tank, you're going to typically get more algae problems normally than you will with a well-established tank.
Well, I will say this. That did. Wait. I will say this. This did not work for me. Taking the rocks out and scraping them did not work for me. It has not resolved itself. So I'm going to have to take drastic measures. However, I do want to point out in that realm of the conversation that when you first, as Cheryl just said, with an established tank, it's different. Because when you first set up a tank, you should ignore the brown, red, green algae. You're going to go through. There's, in addition to the nitrogen cycle, there's an algae cycle. I will preach that to my dying day because it's the truth. And the more you fight it in that first, couple months of setup, maybe even within the first 6 months, year, the more you fight it, the more you're just prolonging it. It has to cycle through. However, in an established tank, I'm going to veer away from what Cheryl just said and say that it's harder than it just correcting itself. Cheryl's amazing. She keeps amazing tanks and is very good at what she does. She does post to explain it, but I will show you how I fix it. Go ahead, Cheryl.
In an established tank, the time I've had problems with serious algae has been where I brought in something I'm going back years ago, brought in a rock or something else, stuck it in the tank, and next thing I know, I got bubble algae or I got biopsis or something like that. Well, it came in on that rock that I had, which is one of the reasons I sterilize everything now. But and it's a lot. Prevention's a lot easier to take care of than trying to correct it.
Yeah. And my green hair algae, it isn't bad. I have a little bit of it. It comes, it goes, but I mean, it's tending to go now that it has less light. Once I change the lighting, now it's slowly going away, and I don't worry too much about it because it's not hurting anything. I don't like it.
Salty Reef, who
But
said
Coraline Algae, oh my gosh.
right.
No, I was there with a plastic scraper for an hour, and that was all I could take. And I probably have another hour or so to go on what's left. And I'm like, that's for another day after my arm heals.
Yep. Okay, so wait. I want to go to the comments real quick. Poison algae is part of life, and you just live with it. or it just has to be controlled with eaters or you. Totally agree. And Chimp the Reefer said urchins or chiton. I always say it wrong. It's not shit-ons. It's chiton. I don't know how to say it. Anyways, but I know exactly that
How do you say that?
chitons. I don't know. But I love those things. And we've actually had a discussion previously with Kevin and such that urchin specific kinds can go in a seahorse tank. I personally have not tried that yet. But Dan and Kevin had a very great conversation in a previous Wine Wednesday about a specific urchin that could go in. And as far as algae as part of life, couldn't agree more. In fact, Poison, when I did go through that 2 years after my mom passed where I wasn't taking care of the tank, I was shocked. Now, I shouldn't even be saying this live. This is not something I would ever advise. I got extremely lucky because I had seahorse source seahorses that had been with me for years and were healthy and strong. But I'm telling you, I didn't do a water change maybe once in a year, which, no, don't do that. I was depressed. I didn't care, whatever. But they were fine. The tank got cut. If I told you earlier, if I showed a before and after of this tank, you'd be like, holy moly. Because it was covered in green. There were, over the rocks, there were like that green film crap, like making a balloon. It was not good, okay? And the seahorses were still okay. I ended up rehoming them before whatever. But anyways.
The seahorses love it. There's nothing funnier than somebody getting worried about a seahorse because it's getting red spots or it's got this green stringy stuff hanging off its spines. And you sitting there going, it's algae, it won't hurt them.
Well, Chimp the Reefer said, and Poison backed him up, the only problem with things that eat Coraline is they also poo Coraline. Just like Ray said about the cleanup crew in general. So it tends to spread it, period. Yeah. So, Salty, I was getting ready to end this stream. It's been so fun. I love it when you guys all join. But Salty, did you jump in? Did you want to share? Can we jump you with questions or?
I saw
This mic blocked.
Oh, he's working on the mic. Okay, I'm gonna try to keep this open until he can share. But either way, he comes all the time. So if you've got questions for him, he does come. And also, don't forget, once he starts that channel going, we're gonna recommend it because I've talked to Salty on the side, and he gives great advice. And I wish I would have followed his advice and Cheryl's.
there you are.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Goodbye.
No, I'm not gonna cut it off yet because Salty just joined, killing me. But Salty, so what will your videos dive into that say mine don't? And I give you credit for it.
Mostly, what I'm going to be diving into is like the pre-setup, which is curing of the rock, the rinsing of the sand, the importance of starting with clean, sterile rock, sand, equipment, and so forth.
Awesome. So you would basically agree with Cheryl that my problem likely is that I just scrubbed the rocks and didn't cure them.
Correct.
Okay. Dang it. Okay. Well.
I have two tubs sitting out on my front porch that are full of bleach right now, that are full of rock that I'm taking out of some sumps and stuff that I'm breaking down because I'm redoing them and setting them back up. They'll probably be out there for the next week before I finally get a chance to fully get them rinsed and bring them back in.
Yeah, I remember doing that years ago when I had, it was back 2007, 2008, and I remember curing rock and stuff, and it was a big deal. It took a long time, I remember.
So Salty,
there were different stages.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes, there's different stages.
Yeah.
And Salty, I'm curious. So
that was so long ago, I don't remember.
right. So Salty, my main question at this point is, so I screwed up. I didn't either bleach it or whatever. So at this point, would you, number one, if I pull the seahorses, well, first of all, I've got 2 seahorses that are doing fine in the tank and 2 seahorses that are not.
Send me your orange and your yellow seahorses.
No, we're not doing that. Nope. But What I was gonna say is, Salty, if I pull the seahorses into a hospital tank, the first question is, would you advise me at this point to just bleach and recycle, which I could do within a couple
Yes.
weeks, or should I do the whole curing process that you're talking about, which would take much longer? And then my secondary question after you to Cheryl is, I know it's just water changes, but every time I stick seahorses in a bucket or in a hospital tank, they are so unhappy. It works out when I treat them, but it never goes very well for me. So how long can they stay in a hospital tank? First, Salty, you say bleach.
Actually, let's first answer the question: how long can a seahorse stay in a? We're not going to call it a hospital tank. Let's call it a quarantine tank.
Okay,
Yeah.
Let's answer that question first.
go ahead.
I don't have that answer.
Oh, okay, Cheryl. How long? Because, and the reason I'm saying this is because anyone who's ever hospitalized seahorses will know. We talk about it all the time. We say you have to do it. It's important. I agree. However, they're pissed. They don't like it. They miss their surroundings. I've had lost seahorses just from putting them in a bucket, even though I did everything properly. I've also cured seahorses. So, Cheryl, what to do, and how long can you do it?
Well, from my perspective, I always have extra tanks set up.
Okay.
And that right there makes a big difference because I can do the mirror on the side of the tank, and the tank could be, it could be as much as a 60-gallon tank that they're going into.
Wait. Let's stop. Can we pretend that you're not amazing and give recommendations to people that are less amazing like me? I mean, I do have K1 cycle. Wait. I have K1 cycled that I could set up a tank and all that, but I usually do a bucket, to be honest. Is that my mistake?
You move a seahorse into a quarantine situation. I will typically use a tub, a nursery type tub, because they can't see out. They're not going to get startled. Nothing's going to scare them because they can't see other than blue, and they tend to be very, very happy in that type of environment.
Hmm.
The other alternative is to completely cover at least 3 sides, and if need be, part of the 4th side with black paper, whatever else you can cover with. What you want to do is keep them in an environment where they're not being startled, where they feel safe, and they're not stressing. The problem with buckets, most buckets are white or different, and they can still see shadows and stuff.
Ah, okay. Got it.
And I mean, if you're a seahorse, you're in a strange environment. You don't have a lot of places to hide or hitch, and all of
Right.
a sudden you see these big shadows moving back and forth.
That makes
This
sense.
is stressful.
Okay, so no bucket. We'll use a tank, and I'll cover the sides, and I'll videotape all of this for you. I'm hoping they just eat, to be honest. And again, I just have to say it again. I have no problem with Ocean Rider seahorses. My yellow ones are fantastic. This is a mistake I made in this tank. So, Cheryl, the actual question though, before we go to Salty, was how long can you keep a seahorse? Can you keep a seahorse in a hospital tank indefinitely? Or will they eventually become stressed because it's too small? If you're doing massive water changes.
It depends on the species.
Hmm.
If the wild caught are going to stress more easily than captive breds, typically.
Right.
It's going to be. It's also going to depend on their age. Uh, I mean, I have moved decent-sized adult erectus into my nurseries on occasion when I needed to move another tank, and they didn't miss a beat. Didn't even phase them.
How long
So
though?
they were, yeah. But it's one of those things where it's a safe environment.
Right, you have to make it a safe environment. They have to have hitches. I'll cover all that. But I'm asking, like, how long have you kept
Yeah.
seahorses in a hospital or quarantine tank? What's the
I'm sorry, in
longest?
a hospital tank.
Or
The
quarantine?
longest I have, well, in quarantine, longest I have gone was about 6 weeks. And
Okay,
that was an engine's mail that I received that developed tail bubbles.
so
That's perfect.
Salty, can you cure rock in 6 weeks?
Yes, you can.
Okay, tell me.
So the first 5 days, what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to do. I usually do it in like a 30-gallon trash, like brute trash can.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to want to do all your rock in that trash can. For 30 gallons of water, you're going to do 3 gallons of bleach.
Okay.
You're going to let it sit. I prefer a little bit of circulation to help blow off, all the dead
Crap.
organics and whatever's on your rock. So I put it in a power head. So I use RODI water, 30 gallons of RODI with 3 gallons of bleach for 5 to, if you can go 7 days, great. So go 7 days and then completely empty that container.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to fill it back up with complete RODI water. And you're going to let it sit for another 5 to 7 days.
Okay.
You're going to take that after your 5 to 7 days. You're going to eliminate that water. And then you're going to, this is now week 3. You're going to add complete RODI water, which I use the whole time, just so we're clear. And then you're going to add some.
So not salty water, just RODI.
No,
Okay.
Just RODI water.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're not trying to cycle the rock, we're trying to cure it.
Right.
So at week 3, I add RODI water, and I use Prime, which is a dechlorinator.
Mm-hmm.
So I fill it up, add your Prime, and I let it sit for another 5 to 7 days, and then you do another water change.
Wait. Quick question. Prime usually only is effective for 24 to 48 hours. Do you add more Prime after 2 days or no?
No.
Okay.
And also, my question is, if you're using the Rodi water, there wouldn't be chlorine in it anyway, right?
No.
It's to get away from the bleach, right?
To remove the bleach.
Yeah.
Basically, all we're doing is trying to remove the bleach.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
One thing.
And then on week 3, what I do is I actually pull it out after you use the Prime and everything else. I pull it out of the water and I let it air dry for 3 to 5 days.
Okay.
I do the same thing.
Okay, so that all the gases and all the stuff, it basically gases off in the oxygen. So then after that happens for 3 to 5 days, I put it back in water and I go for another 3 to 5 days with some Prime or some type of water conditioner. And then at that point, I think we're okay to start actually cycling the rock. So it's roughly 5 weeks.
Okay, so after that process, first of all, I want to say, Poison, thank you so much for coming. He or she, liked hearing no buckets, and also said, just a side note, that GHA can be solved with bacteria's army and small eaters like copepods. I love that statement if you watch this later, because we'll talk next week more about how good bacteria can solve a problem. But Salty, back to you. I'm sorry. Just wanted to say goodbye to him. But so then after the rock is cured, I need to.
After your rock is cured, it all depends on how you want to set up your aquascape. Like for me personally, I like to dry scape all my scapes. If you want to do it live, where you're just stacking rock and you're not gluing or anything like that, then you can actually start your cycling process in the same bucket. Put all your rock back in the same bucket, add your beneficial bacteria, add your ammonia source, and cycle, your normal 6-week cycle. Me personally, I do an in-tank cycle.
Okay.
With no light whatsoever for the first 8 weeks. So once my aquascape is done, usually I add Aquavitro seed, and I let it go, and I kind of ghost feed every other day, and let it cycle that way with no lights. That is the importance to beat the whole ugly phase, is no light whatsoever throughout the whole cycle period. So darken out your tank, whatever you need to do, no light.
I like
and
that.
run it for. I like to go 8 weeks.
Right. So yeah, you just screwed me up because I'm not keeping a seahorses in a. I mean, okay. First of all, I want to say
You're starting new. That sounds great.
yes, absolutely. I was gonna say I can't wait for the
Yeah.
videos, and I'm gonna put it to you guys. We need Salty Reef to write an article about this too, because some people like to read in addition to watch. So we need that information. I don't want to take it and write an article because that should be for you, or if I do, I'll credit you. But amazing information. Totally agree. Now let's get back to me. Right? Because this is about me. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, guys.
So how to fix
But
your problem?
yes.
Start over.
But I can't
That's
keep the
not what
seahorses
you
in a
wanted.
hospital tank for no. Here's my problem. Here's my problem.
I know it's not what you want to hear.
It isn't because
but
listen, and I
in
just
my
want to.
opinion,
I know, and I appreciate, and I'm probably going to do what you say, but I just want everybody in the audience and anyone who watches this later to be like, look, we're talking about not only do I have to empty and clean out the 100 gallons of water in my tank and sump, but then I need
Okay, do you have
30,
any tool or
60,
any-
90 gallons of water just to cure it. Then I need, only 30 gallons more to cycle it, and I personally use good bacteria. I know a lot of people that's controversial, but I
Okay.
do. So I could do it in a week versus 8, but still that's like 7 weeks of seahorses, not in a bucket, but in a quarantine tank, and then setting it back up, and then you're talking about another 100 gallons worth of water. Listen, I'm lazy. So,
Okay, so do you have anything in your tank right now that requires light?
the peppermint shrimp and the seahorses. That's it. Snails.
So none of that requires light.
Right?
So for 6 weeks, shut your light off,
Got it. Can do.
and you're gonna want to do 20% water changes every 3 days.
Okay. Gosh darn it. Now you're talking about another freaking 100 gallons. I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, that's
I know. Do what you got to do. I'm commiserating with everyone who watches this later. It sucks, but to fix a problem, you got to fix it. Go
sucks,
ahead.
But this is the process. If
Yes.
you don't set up correctly and you're trying to battle algae, this is what you got to do.
Yep.
So you're gonna want to run no lights, and this is my opinion and my opinion only. Like there's no scientific evidence behind what I'm saying.
I agree with it. Go ahead.
6 weeks. Black out your tank because algae cannot live with
Without light.
no light,
Mhm.
and algae cannot live without a bacterial source. So if you are doing a water change, 10%, 10% every week
Mhm.
for those 6 weeks with good pure water, I think you'll be fine.
Well, I just want to say again, I'm being devil's advocate, guys. You know I'm going to do it. I just like to. I know that other people have those same things, like, oh my gosh, this is so much. But if you care about your inhabitants, you're going to do it, and I will. One last question for you, Salty. If I do the blackout instead of cure and recycle and pull all the livestock, could I bleach the rock in the tank?
No,
Okay. Why?
no.
No,
Once you add
do
bleach to
not
the tank,
want to do that.
it will kill all. It'll actually kill everything you have.
I said, but if I decided to do the curing method, but just didn't want to pull all the rock and instead pulled all the livestock, put them in quarantine, I couldn't bleach the tank there?
No, you're gonna want to do it outside of your tank.
Okay. Yes, sir. And then final question is, once it's cured, recycled, added back to the tank, or no, wait, back up. If I do the other method that you just described, lights out for 6 weeks and water 10% water changes weekly for 6 weeks, my problem is I'm a dummy. I set this seahorse tank up, you guys got to remember, like 10 years ago. Probably, well, 8. Anyways, long time ago. And I wasn't that smart at that point. I'm so brilliant now, right? But it is against a window. Now, I have the back and the sides covered with blue, so no light gets in there. But I'm looking at it as I'm talking, and even with the light off, it's going to come in over the top. We don't want to cover a Seahorse tank because air and oxygen exchange. So thoughts on that? Or Cheryl, do you think that I could cover the tank to keep out the light?
How much light do you have coming in on that tank?
I'll take a picture when we're done, but I do have a light over it, and I have the back and the sides covered, but it's up diagonal against a window, which has curtains, but it still comes in.
Go buy some cardboard, cover the window until the tank's filled.
Okay. And Salty, what'd you say?
Well, that's one option.
Okay.
And I'll say both my tanks are covered and I get enough oxygen. But like my husband points out, part of it's in the tubing.
Yeah.
Because the tubing has a lot of air in it. It's big tubing, so a lot of air runs through there.
I'll go to the grocery store and buy poster board, just big sheets of poster board, and cover windows, just tape them on the windows if I need to get reduced light.
You want to hear something funny?
Okay,
Sean said the same thing. He said, put poster board up and put your logo on it. Call it a day. Anyways, so.
Are you running a skimmer in your sump?
Well, this entire conversation has been about the skimmer sucks. But yeah. I mean, no. Apparently no, because it's not working right. It's not working right.
No. It doesn't matter if the skimmer sucks or whatever. Are you running one?
Well, it's not working. It keeps overflowing and pouring it all back.
Use a skimmer.
Ah.
If you're worried about
Okay.
oxygenation, just take the cup off the skimmer.
Okay, got it.
Take the collection cup off the skimmer and let it produce oxygen, and your sump will take care of the micro bubbles.
Yeah, but wait a minute, guys. That's what I'm worried is the problem. One of them. Like, I know everybody has told me until they're blue in the face that microbubbles, and I know I microbubble Seahorse tanks, I microbubble reef tanks, but it's just interesting to me that when this skimmer started overflowing, that's when the Seahorses got problems. Maybe because it's not removing enough.
It's from the crap going in the water.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Seahorses are not a problem.
Right, but the crap going in the water.
Or
No,
Semas or problems. It's not the microbubbles. It's the dissolved organics.
Right, but the skimmer's putting them right back in the tank.
But if you
Not
turn
if
it
you take
down,
the collection
like
cup off.
Okay, wait. Salty, what do you mean by that?
Take the cup off and turn it down to where the bubbles aren't overflowing. The crap's still bubbling up. It's just not getting into a cup. And it's not flowing into the tank. So you're okay. You just have to keep the level down a little more.
Look at that light bulb moment. I learned something new. Yay.
It also fixes pH issues.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and Salty, I have to thank you because you're the one that told me what levels to put. I fixed my lighting after you told me that. I did it a little different though, because what you had told me was I think 30% blue and 15% white.
Yeah.
And I ended up going with 60% blue and 30% white, and it still made a difference.
Nice.
Yeah, it all depends
Because
on
the
the light.
tank got too dark when I put the levels down too low, but
Well, Holly, what I do is like in my tank where I've got the Erectus that came in from overseas. One side I have a bar light on there. It's just blues and whites, and it's actually still very low lighting. The other side there is no light, and so they can move between no light, white light.
I like that.
That come in and they're so comfortable and doing so well is because they have no fear in this tank. They just
They have everywhere to go to do whatever they want.
aren't reacting.
Okay, guys, listen.
Another problem.
Go ahead, Salty.
What are you running your lights at? What are you running your lights at?
Me?
What lights are you running?
Okay, so okay. You might be calling me out again. I have an SB Reef. It's actually the freshwater light because I was only trying to grow macros in this tank for years. However, I have it completely at the lowest levels, like lowest levels on every spectrum. It's turned all the way down.
you and I have already discussed before that too low of the light spectrum can cause nuisance algae. We've had this discussion.
Okay, I'm cutting the stream. Good night. Have a good night. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, Salty, I know. And I'm gonna, if you'll hang out for a second afterwards, you can beat me up privately, not publicly. But guys, I promise absolutely that I will update you and be
No problem.
honest. I will update you.
I truly believe.
Sorry, go ahead.
I really truly believe that your problem is organics in the rocks. I think that's your problem.
I think you're right, and I think the other problem is laziness. But I promise to be honest with all of you, and hopefully it'll help you in the future if you're lazy like me. I'll get my fixes from Cheryl, Holly, Dan, Salty Reef, Harkins Aquatics, everybody in the comments. I will listen to you, I'll share, and we'll figure out how to fix this and, fix any problems you have in the future. That's what we're here for. So I keep going back and justifying, but hey, if I didn't make mistakes, anyways.
But if people didn't make mistakes, we'd never learn.
Right. Go ahead, Cheryl.
When I break down a tank, the tank gets thoroughly scrubbed inside and out, separate. The rock goes into a tub, which gets bleached and bleached again and rinsed and bleached. Ultimately set out to dry for at least a week outside in 90-degree weather. And then I eventually get around to, and I don't pay, it's one of those things where it's like, I've done it enough times, and it's like, I'm not in a hurry to get it done. So I just take my time. I got 2 tubs. I got 40 gallons sitting outside right now with rock in that's getting bleached because I'm tearing down a tank to make room for a different tank.
Right. Well, all I've got to say is I am here for all of you that, number one, have a significant other that says, hell no, we ain't having buckets sitting all over the house or outside. I'm here for you. We're going to figure it out. And number two, that you're like, oh shit, I got to do all this work. I'm here for you. We're going to figure it out.
Like me with the algae.
Right. Yeah, we're going to figure it out.
Today with the scraper.
Hey, my significant other is my rag cat.
Well, I bring the experts in like Salty and Cheryl and all of you guys, Holly, everybody that comes gives a valid, different opinion. Some of you guys have been doing it a lot longer, know way more than me, and I'm here for the lazy folks. Right here, I'm here for you. I'm going to figure out how to do it with the least amount of pain, and I'm going to share it with you. But I am going to have to call the stream, guys. Go ahead, Salty. Go ahead.
The biggest things with these new beginners that are entering the hobby and leaving it really fast is they're buying this uncured rock, which has dissolved organics in it. They're setting up a tank. They're getting a shit ton of algae, and they're like, oh, fuck it, I'm out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then if they bought live rock, they're going to get hydroids,
the pests and all the other stuff. Yeah.
All kinds of other crap.
Amen. Lazy or not, if you're smarter than me, and I mean, like I set up my tanks properly, like Salty's talking about, but me trying to just finagle and, fix it quicker without all the water and the bleaching and all that shit, it's messed me up. So there's your point. Don't do it. Take the time in the beginning, set it up proper, and then you won't have the problems that say I'm having right now. But I'm
exactly. There's a quote that says, time is money. So taking the proper time to set something up correctly saves a ton of money.
A freaking man. And I just want to say again, once Salty gets these videos up, we're going to recommend them. If you want to write on the side, Salty, we'll promote it because, and Cheryl, of course, is writing some articles too. And the website, guys, Seahorse Whisperer, will be up within a month. As long as as well as the Women in Reefing website. So I am gonna have to call it for tonight. I love when Salty joins. I'm sorry that I always call it right after you join, but you shared some valuable information. Maybe we can get you in earlier next week or in following weeks that you're available. But I am gonna have to call it. Come to the Macna events this weekend. Come next week. We'll try to push Salty in earlier, and we'll have some more fun conversations. So
I'm going to say one final word.
Go.
Words. You do not need fish to cycle a saltwater tank.
Well, for sure. Of course.
Absolutely.
And we're going to watch Salty's video about that.
Fish stores will tell people.
Right. And actually, I have to redo my setting up a Seahorse tank. I don't concentrate on the forethought that Salty does, which will be so valuable. But I do concentrate on what you need in a Seahorse tank, and which would show why I'm having troubles is because my Seahorse tank maintenance is, or mechanical filtration is not working well. But the video is still good. I need to redo it, but there is a video out there. Just search setting up a Seahorse tank. I'm doing my words. It's the wine. I gotta call it, you guys. I got to. What are you sharing, Cheryl? Oh.
Golden says good night.
Golden says good night. All right, everybody say cheers. We'll be back next week, and we'll see you this weekend if you attend our events. Free events, virtual. I'll put a link. Everybody say cheers.
Bye, everyone.